Welcome to Learners Academy, and today is the third lecture of Distinguish Between in the quick revision series. Alright, and I'll be giving you the best notes for the final exam, and I'll be covering all the topics based on this question from chapter 5 and chapter 6. Chapter 5 is heat and chapter 6 is refraction of light. Alright, so stay focused throughout the session and let's get started now. The difference between absolute humidity and relative humidity. Before we go to the difference between these two entities, let me tell you what is humidity. Humidity means moisture in the air. You must have heard that today is very humid, isn't it? So that means there's a lot of moisture in the air. That is, the presence of water vapor in the atmosphere is called humidity. How does that moisture comes? It comes because of the water vapors in the air, in the atmosphere. Sometimes there is a lot of humidity in the atmosphere and the air is said to be saturated. What does that mean? The air contains maximum water vapor at that temperature. All right, that temperature, it means the extent of water vapor which is needed to saturate the air depends on temperature. जितना ज़्यादा temperature उतना ज़्यादा water vapor लगेगा उसे saturate करने के लिए. And when is the air said to be unsaturated? That means it has the capacity to hold more water vapor at that temperature. That means the air is unsaturated. Now let us start with the difference between absolute humidity and relative humidity. Now, absolute humidity, it is the mass of water vapor present in a unit volume of air. On the other hand, relative humidity is the ratio of the mass of water vapor in a given volume of air at a given temperature to the mass of water required to saturate the same volume of air at the same temperature. Now, relative humidity does not have any unit, whereas the absolute humidity can be measured in terms of kg per meter cube. All right, so this was all about the difference between absolute humidity and relative humidity. All right, see, how can you on what basis will you determine whether the air is saturated with water or not? So I'll tell you. See, whether air is saturated with water or not, it is determined on the basis of the extent of water vapor present in the air. If the relative humidity is 100%, air is saturated with water vapor, and in that case we can see formation of droplets on leaves of plants and grass. If the relative humidity is less than 100%, air is not saturated with water. All right. Now we have second differentiation, that is between the specific latent heat of fusion and specific latent heat of vaporization. Now before I take up this topic, I want to tell you in detail what is latent heat. What does it mean? What is the meaning of latent heat? For example, when a solid is heated, its temperature will increase. When you heat some solid substance, the temperature of that substance increases, right? Here, the heat which is absorbed by that solid substance is used in increasing the kinetic energy of all the particles. See, all the solids, they are made up of either atoms, molecules, etc. So that heat is absorbed by solid and is used in the increase of kinetic energy of all the particles of the body, as well as for doing work against the force of attraction between them. See, in case of solid, all the atoms and molecules are held together with lot of attraction between them. That is why they are solid, and that force of attraction is little less in case of liquids and is very least in case of gases. All right, so this heat which is now absorbed by the solid substance is used in increasing the kinetic energy of the particles of the body, and also for doing work against this force of attraction which is there in between them. And as a result, what happens? The solid is converted into liquid. Why? Because in this case the temperature remains constant and the heat absorbed is used. Whatever heat that is absorbed is used for weakening the bonds and conversion into liquid phase, and this is called the latent heat of fusion. On the other hand, क्या होता है? When a solid is converted into gaseous state, when a liquid is converted now into a gaseous phase, when we give more temperature, हम उसको और आग के नीचे रखेंगे, the boiling point, the heat is absorbed for now breaking that bond. Earlier it was to weaken those bonds, now it is to break those bonds. Alright, the heat absorbed is used for breaking the bonds between atoms or molecule, and this heat is called the latent heat of vaporization. Now we come to specific heat. Now since you understood what is the latent heat of fusion and what is the latent heat of vaporization, now we'll differentiate between the specific latent heat of fusion and specific latent heat of vaporization. So whenever we use the word specific, means the amount of heat energy absorbed at a constant temperature by unit mass of a solid. So that means now we'll be talking only about the unit quantities. All right, of a solid to convert into liquid phase is called the specific heat of fusion. It is expressed in joules per kg, erg per gram, or calorie per gram, or kilojoules per kg, or kilocalorie per kg. So this is called specific latent heat of fusion. All right. And what is a specific latent heat of vaporization? The amount of heat energy absorbed. Earlier it was absorbed at the constant temperature by unit mass of a liquid to convert into gaseous phase is called specific latent heat of vaporization. All right, specific latent heat of fusion of ice is 80 kilocalorie per gram. All right, remember this. So that table is given in the book. You can remember all those values. So now I'm going to take up point-wise differences between specific latent heat of fusion and specific latent heat of vaporization, and this you have to memorize by heart. And you don't have to skip a point, and don't try to write in your own language. Try, if you have understood the concept, try to use the language of the book, because then you'll get the better marks. Now the amount of heat energy absorbed at constant temperature by unit mass of a solid to convert into liquid phase is called specific latent heat of fusion. Specific latent heat of fusion. All right, now specific latent heat of vaporization is from liquid to gaseous phase. All right, the amount of heat energy absorbed at constant temperature by unit mass of a liquid to convert into gaseous phase is called the specific latent heat of vaporization. Now second point of specific latent heat of fusion. Specific latent heat of fusion has lower value than the specific latent heat of vaporization. On the other hand, specific latent heat of vaporization has greater value than specific latent heat of fusion. Very simple. Now example, specific latent heat of fusion of ice is 80 calorie per gram. On the other hand, specific latent heat of vaporization of water is 540 calorie per gram. All right. So that was all about the difference between specific latent heat of fusion and specific latent heat of vapor. The difference between melting point of a solid and boiling point of a liquid. Melting point of solid. Melting point of solid is always lesser than the boiling point of liquid, because a solid first melts into a liquid, and liquid then converts into a gas. And when a liquid is changed into a gaseous form, it is called boiling point. At that point it starts evaporating. All right, the melting, when the solid starts melting, that is called the melting point, and it gets started, it changes into liquid. Now the melting point of solid, the constant temperature at which solid converts into liquid, is called melting point. On the other hand, the boiling point, the constant temperature at which liquid converts into gas, is called its boiling point. Melting points are lesser than the boiling points. Boiling points are greater than the melting points. Always remember this. Melting point for ice is 0 degree. On the other hand, boiling point of water is 100 degrees centigrade. All right, you don't have to write stories to get full marks. Even if your 3 or 4 points are which are related to the topic and to the point, then you'll get full marks. See, difference type between two entities can be asked directly or indirectly, or it is mainly asked in question number 2b and 3. So question number 3 has got you have to attempt 5 questions of 3 marks, so it can be asked for 3 marks. Or on the other hand, if it is 2b question, then it is also of 2 marks. So if you remember differences between two entities, you also learn the definitions. All right, you also get to know many objectives which are hidden here. So that's why I'm giving you differences, and please pay attention and learn them by heart, because once you cover these topics, your most of the syllabus is covered. Because sometime in question number 4 also there are some questions which are asked based on these differences only. All right, so if you have learned to give reasons and differences, you have to rest assured that your most of the portion is done, because in that case your objectives are also covered. But still, I'm going to upload the sessions on objectives and picture based question also. Now this is a very important question, and it is the difference between reflection of light and refraction of light, from chapter 6, refraction of light. The concept of reflection was learned in standard 9. Now this year we are going to have refraction of light. So we have to understand what is the difference between reflection and refraction. Reflection means when light is incident on the surface of an object. In general, it is deflected in different direction. This process is called reflection of light. On the other hand, the change in the direction of propagation of light as it passes obliquely from one transparent medium to another is called refraction of light. Refraction occurs because there is the velocity of light is different in different media. Now, in case you can see this diagram, in case of reflection, the incident rays is traveling in the same medium. It touches the surface of the mirror and it is getting reflected, but it is traveling in the same medium as air. On the other hand, you can see the diagram of refraction. The incident light falls on the surface of glass, which is transparent. It's not mirror. So it travels from air, and when the light rays travel through glass or water, that means these are two different mediums. The rays are traveling in two different mediums. All right, now we are going to cover point wise difference between reflection and refraction. The refraction of light, before and after reflection, travel in the same medium. Just now I told you. See, in refraction of light, the rays travel from one medium to another. All right, and sometime it again travels back to the same medium. All right, now in reflection of light, the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection are equal. You can see here these two angles are equal. Whereas in case of refraction, when the rays travel obliquely from one medium to another medium, the angle of incidence and the angle of refraction, they are not equal. They may look equal, but here you can see this angle of incidence is 60 degree, whereas the angle of refraction in case of glass is 34.5 degree. In the figure 2, you can see the angle of incident is 60 degree in case of water, when the medium is water and air, and the angle of refraction is 40.6 degree. So there is a difference in refraction. When the rays travel obliquely from one medium to another medium, the angle of incidence and the angle of refraction are not equal. Second point. Now the third point is, in reflection there is no change in the speed and wavelength of light. Alright. Whereas in refraction there occurs a change in the speed and wavelength of light. Refraction occurs as velocity of light is different in different medium. See here, the medium was same, so there is no change in the speed. But in case of refraction, you can see the air is the medium, first medium, second medium is glass or water, as you see. So there is a change in the medium. So refraction occurs as the velocity of light is different in different medium. Alright, now the most and last important point, in reflection there is no dispersion of light. Alright, so there is never a dispersion of light. In case of refraction, dispersion of light generally occurs in refraction. What is dispersion of light? The process of separation of light into its component. Alright, you want to see? I'll show you in the next slide. See, white light is hitting the glass prism, and in this process it is getting segregated into different components of color. The process of separation of light into its component color while passing through a medium is called dispersion of light. Alright, this band of colored component of a light is called spectrum. Alright, that is called spectrum. The different colors of light in the spectrum of white light is the light which gets deviated most is the violet, and the light which is least deviated is red. So this is an important question from objective point of view, so you must remember this. And I have given you the definition of dispersion of light also in this. See, so many questions are prepared in one go. Alright, now that's the end of the chapter. I hope you enjoyed watching the video and learned how to distinguish between two phenomena. If you want to see more of such videos, subscribe to my channel and take a look at my Learners Academy page. Keep learning, share your knowledge with your friends. Thanks for watching. Have a sweet day.